So as your solution grows inside Visual Studio solution, as your SharePoint solution is getting larger, sometimes it's the Visual Studio package designer. It's kind of hard to tell the relationships between the features and the element manifests in the solutions, or even in the Solution Explorer. So you can see it if you drill down, but if you want to get an overall higher level view, it's better sometimes to use the Packaging Explorer. It's just a complement to the Visual Studio Solution Explorer. So what it is, it's just a view of the solution as it is currently deployed to the SharePoint 15 Hive, to the root. It gives you quick access to the item properties and the designers. And it's also a nice, easy way to rearrange things in your solution package. So let's go ahead and open Visual Studio again to our solution and just take a look at what the Packaging Explorer looks like and look at its functionality. So we're in our SharePoint solution again, and I'm going to double click on Package Designer, and I'm going to take the Layouts folder out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the Solution Explorer so we have a little bit more real estate, and we're going to open up the Packaging Explorer. So you can see it's just a little bit different type of view of our SharePoint solution package here, and you can notice how the it's in sync with the package designer. So layouts is missing here. If I go ahead and add the layouts folder back in and the files back into the package, then they get added here. And you can drill down. If I double click that, it'll just take me directly to the page. Same thing here. I can drill down into the elements. Just allows me to drill right down into it. So one of the nice things that Visual Studio 2012 gives us in regards to deployment is that you can configure solution deployment if you go to the project properties and then you click on the SharePoint tab, and from there you can edit the existing commands, or you can add new pre and post deployment commands. So there's several different deployment configurations. You can run a pre-deployment command if you want to. So before your solution gets deployed, it'll run whatever command that you put in. Same thing for post-deployment. You can specify whether or not you want the IIS application pool to be recycled. And sometimes that's important. In a developer environment, sometimes it helps because there are certain things that SharePoint caches, and so if you go ahead and check that, then it can sometimes make your life a little bit easier. You can see things right away because they're not cached. You can also control whether or not you retract your existing solution before deploying again, and then also whether or not you add the solution. And then, to me, this is kind of one of the important items as well, is you can control whether or not features get activated. So by default, the default configuration does activate features, but you can control that. So right now, we're going to take a look at managing deployment configurations inside of Visual Studio 2012. So in the SharePoint solution, I'm going to right-click on my project, not the solution, my SharePoint project, and I'm going to go to the properties of my project and close the Solution Explorer so I have more room. And I'm going to click here on the SharePoint tab. This is the pre-deployment command line that I just talked about, and the post-deployment command line. And then we also have the deployment configuration. So the active deployment configuration, which means when I deploy my solution, this is what's going to happen right now, is just what's called the default. So I can view that and take a look at it. And you can see what's happening now is it's going to run the pre-deployment command, recycles app pool, retracts the solution, adds the solution. Then it does activate any features I have and then runs the post-deployment command. And then for the retraction, I actually have steps for the retraction as well. So that's going to recycle the application pool and then retract the solution. And then there's another configuration that comes out of the box called no activation. And so in this one, basically it's the same stuff that's happening, but features aren't being activated. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that again. I'm going to let's view the output window. Let's just deploy the solution as is. We have default configuration. So I'm going to deploy. Resolve that. Let me just open this up a little bit more. So here's we're using the default deployment configuration. So it's performing all these steps, and you can see how it's activating features. So let's change that. Let's go back, close this, and I'm going to say, let's change this to be no activation. So I don't want to activate features. I'll save that. And let's view the output window. So let's deploy this again. Yep, we'll resolve that. So now you can see, did all the same stuff as before, and then it's adding the solution. So here it's adding the solution, deploying the solution. But notice how it's not activating any features because we told it not to do that in the configuration. So you can see you have quite a bit of control over how your solutions get deployed when you're working inside of Visual Studio 2012. So in Visual Studio 2012, the debugging story is still good. Visual Studio 2010 improved greatly over previous versions, and Visual Studio 2012, the debugging experience is it's even better. So for controls, pages, and workflows, you can just press F5, and that's going to automatically deploy your solution for you and attach to the process, and you'll be able to debug. One thing to keep in mind though, if you have event receivers and you want to debug when the feature gets activated, you want to make sure that you don't include the feature activation in your deployment configuration. So pressing F5 is one way to debug. There's sometimes when you don't want to do that or you can't do that. So like for example, if you made a custom timer job or something, then you can just do the same way that you could always do in Visual Studio, is just attach to the process. So if it was a timer job, obviously you can attach the OWS timer process. For debugging your website, you would attach to the W3WP process. So right now, let's go ahead and take a look at debugging inside of Visual Studio 2012 with SharePoint 2013. Okay, so in our SharePoint project, I'm going to go back to our feature, that My Custom List feature that has an event receiver defined for it. And what I want to do is just put a breakpoint in here. So I just want to see that, I just want to be able to know that I can debug when I can step into this when the feature is activated. Even though there's no code here, I just want to see my breakpoint get hit by the debugger. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to check my deployment configuration. I'm going to make sure that no activation is checked here. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy. So So that's adding the solution, deploy succeeded. So now I'm going to go to my site while that's warming up. We're going to go to the My Custom List feature, and that is scoped at the web level. I'm going to go to Site Settings, and I'm going to go to Site Actions, not Site Collection Administration, because I want to manage the site feature. So at the web level, and I'm going to go to, actually, there's something I forgot to do here. I forgot to press F5. All I did was deploy. But that's fine. I can go ahead and press F5. There's two ways I can do it. I'll do it the F5 way first. So I'm going to do F5 right now. So it's just doing the deployment all over again. And it's going to start a new instance of the browser, so that's fine. So it's attaching to the process for me right now. Okay, I'm going to go to Site Settings. And I'm going to go to Manage Site Features. Go down to My Custom List. It's not activated because we told Visual Studio to not activate it. I'm going to make sure I got my breakpoint check. Okay, so it's saying that it's not going to be hit because no symbols have been loaded. But when I go to activate it, it should hit because it's going to load that assembly. And in fact it does. So the assembly got loaded up. So here we hit our breakpoint, and I'll just go ahead and continue. So that's activated now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deactivate it. Yep, I'm going to deactivate it. Close down the browser, and that closes down the debugging window. Let's close down this one. I'm just going to deploy again. Resolve that automatically. Open the site back up. So while it's doing that, now I'm going to go to Debug, attach to process. So I'm going to do it the manual way. And I'm actually going to wait for the website to come up because sometimes there can be more than one worker process for IIS. So I'm going to make sure it's up all the way. Okay, so sometimes if you have more than one web application, you'll see more instances of W3 WP. So in that case, when you're on your development machine, it's easier just to attach to all of them. So I'll go ahead and attach to this one. That's the only one here. Actually, I'm going to check this, show processes from all users. Here's the other W3 WPs. So I'm going to connect to all of them. I'll attach. And then I'm going to go in and go to Site Settings, Manage Site Features, go to My Custom List, and we'll activate. And you can see we hit our breakpoint there. So we did it the automatic way first using F5, and then this way we did it just using the manual way. So there's certain cases when you want to do it the manual way, so this is how you do it.